Welcome to another exciting, adventurous, fantastic Pantheon Roundtable. This is episode number 5. I'm Dan. To that direction is Rob. Damn it! Well, you're right. He's next to me. Then we have Ben, we have Corey, and we have Salim. You guys have all been on here before. You know the drill. How are you, gentlemen?
Very well, thank you. How are you guys?
We have a couple things to talk about tonight. Of course, we're taking questions over in the chat room at pantheonrotf.com/chat. You guys can hop in there. Any comments or questions? A couple of us will be having our eyeballs on that chat to make sure you guys are getting involved. Get the junior developers into the conversation as well. Questions and comments are all greatly appreciated. Now then, we do have a subject for today. It's going to be travel. Not to get right into the meat of it, but what does travel entail in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen?
Well, I mean, it's kind of the act of getting from point A to point B and all of the wonderful or potentially terrible things that can happen there in between. It's could mean a lot of different things. What specifically would you like to know?
Well, I think we should lay down the basics. What kind of travel do we have besides picking one foot up and putting it in front of the other?
Well, there'll be some class interdependency as well through, class abilities, be they run speed or teleports. Some pretty standard stuff in that realm. Something that we probably won't see right away will be mounts. I know that might be to the detriment of some players or to the excitement of others, but we can delve a little bit more into that in a bit. I'm sure there's going to be some specific questions on that.
A couple people actually do have questions. Obviously, what kind of mount is going to be a big question, but someone asked, Max63 has asked, will there be boats?
Hang on a second.
Yep.
At some point, I promised everyone that I'd do a weekly project update. So at some point, let's sneak that in. We can do it at the end or something like that. I don't want to mess up that promise.
No, that was the most fluid seg ever.
Yeah, I'm just like, I need to take lessons.
Oh, no worries, man. No worries. Getting right into the meat. That's fun.
Yeah, no, you got to teach me sometime. Well, actually, let's do that right after we answer the question of boats. Are there going to be boats in game that people can ride? Is it going to be like mass boats that everyone piles onto? Or are there going to be individual ships?
So I would like to see boats in Pantheon, but I wouldn't like to do it until a time that we can actually provide some meaningful content to go along with it. So I don't think initially we're going to see boats. One of the reasons that I feel strongly about that is, in Vanguard we had boats that you could get. Basically, the difficulty in attaining them was getting the materials, finding a crafter to make them for you, and then you just sort of had your boat from there. It had a lot of reward, I would say, associated without like much peril or content to really support it beyond that, and I would like to hold off on adding them until we can actually give some meaningful support to it.
Yeah, boats in Vanguard were a prestige item, pretty much.
Right.
Didn't do anything.
Okay.
It was cool to get your boat. You would go, tool around the islands and kind of see some pretty remote places, and you'd see, perhaps some things that you wouldn't normally see otherwise, just landscape wise. And it's good to go out and do that. It's good for like a role play mechanic, but beyond that, really, there wasn't much use for boats.
Again, thank you everyone for joining us here on twitch.tv/The Rob and Dan Show. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. As a reminder, though, you do need to go to pantheonrotf.com/chat to be able to ask any questions or get involved with us. We appreciate you guys asking questions, going and talking in the actual chat room for the channel, but we don't use it right now for this one beyond generic reminders, at least for the next hour. So you're going to have to go to pantheonrotf.com/chat to go ahead and ask those questions. Now, with that being said, before we get into any other questions or comments, you guys are starting to get it going there in the Pantheon chat room. Salim, the floor is yours. Fulfill your obligations and your promises, whatever you'd like.
Well, like I said, we said we'd give a weekly state of the game. The end of this month means that we've got a lot of internal stuff done. Things like figuring out specs for NPC tools, faction tools, what factions we're going to have, an initial creature list. Getting closer to finalizing our map, all the zones, what climates are in those zones. So we got a lot of cool stuff. People have been submitting a task to me over the past couple of days, and the stuff's really exciting. We've got some of the initial concepts for the ogre race, and another concept that came out of that I think that we'll end up using for our orc. I literally just saw the latest concept for the ogre race, and it looks awesome. So a lot of awesome stuff. I'm certainly excited over the next month to get some more of these things going. But this kind of lays the foundation for us. Putting a lot more stuff out there.
Is any of that concept art stuff you can show us right now, or does that need to stay internal?
Hopefully, I have to coordinate with Ben. Sure. I didn't want to get the ogre out too soon because I wanted to give us some time to look at it and decide if that's where we want to go. But once that's good to go, and once Tony gives us the thumbs up, then you'll see an update for that stuff. So hopefully next week or so.
There we go. Anything else, Ben, you wanted to throw out about state of the game, how things have been going?
Well, I don't actually do the development, but I do keep tabs on the PR marketing and stuff. We did make an announcement earlier today, in fact, about an hour ago. It's been in the store all day, but the announcement went out today that we've now added t-shirts to the store. The official Pantheon Rise of the Fallen t-shirts, so you can pick them up now. They are available for purchase.
And that is over at, just look it up here, Pantheon.
Why are you laughing at me, Lee?
I missed something. What did I miss?
If everyone doesn't go out and buy a t-shirt after that, I don't know what'll get them to buy a t-shirt.
Oh, Ben, he's making fun of your sales pitch.
Yeah, he certainly could have sold someone a used car there.
Thanks.
There's a massive dividing line between marketing and PR. Either you're on one side or the other.
Pick up your official Pantheon Rise of the Fallen t-shirt. Available in black, in ladies and in men's sizes.
I'm making a gif of this as we speak.
Wow. Guys, this is gold. This is magical. PantheonROTF.com/store is the URL for that. If you are not already on the website, go over and check it out there.
Void where prohibited.
Damn it, Rob. All righty, going back to the discussion topic of mounts. What did you guys have in mind for mounts? Is obviously basic animals like horses or wolves or whatever. Is there anything bigger than that, though? Like, give us your encompassing vision of mounts.
So with regards to mounts, I kind of feel the same way with boats. Like, I don't really want to add them until we can have a complementary system to go with them, something to do with, perhaps raising, breeding, like caring for your mount, some sort of cost and some involvement beyond just going and purchasing it from a vendor and basically having, for all intents and purposes, a solo like run speed buff with a graphic associated with it. I'd like to go a little deeper. I think we can do better than that. So when we get around to adding that, it would be with some more support behind it, something to make it more meaningful, both long term and short term, beyond just this prestige item and having flashy, like the latest new mount or whatever that we put out.
Yeah, and to kind of append what Corey is saying is that's how we feel about a lot of stuff. We want stuff to provide some sort of gameplay or support gameplay to some extent. Even having a breeding system means that the solo run buff it's just more difficult to maintain that, but it's still a solo run buff, right? It's the result that we're focusing on. But that said, if we get mounts in, the variety of mounts, I don't know. It's something that we have to evaluate because we don't want just everything is going to be a mount and there's 400 different mounts in the game and things like that. We really want the focus of travel to be on interdependency. I need to get someone to give me a Spirit of the Wolf, or I need someone to teleport me here or there. We want to try to avoid, the standard of drinking the world, which a lot of people fear. Even though if you're playing one of teleport classes, the world is small for you. And we want to not put in a lot of things that cause people to not interact with each other. Mounts are kind of they're kind of a sticky thing. When they were added to EverQuest, Luckland Time, they had some purpose outside of just travel, right? They let you med while effectively standing up. So they had this kind of extra thing to them that made them valuable. It almost made them a requirement if you were a casting class. But they had this extra thing outside of just getting you from point A to point B quicker.
Well, they're a big status thing too.
Well, sure, that's what a mount's always going to be. Yeah. But that said, that even though they let you med was a part of your character. It's something that you could do. It didn't circumvent getting clarity from an enchanter. So we want to not do that. With Vanguard, we had some solutions to that. We had run speed buffs, give also a mounted speed buff. But that came out of the, hey, we're putting mounts in. We're kind of screwing over people who cast. So now it's extra thing on top of here, and let's let speeds get ridiculous, which is another thing we need to avoid. But yeah, we have to evaluate it and try to come up with some cool gameplay around it that's not just point A to point B quicker. That's the desire. If we can't come up with that, but we can still make a cool mount system, and people really want mounts, then we'll put them in.
So one of the questions then is with some of the pledges that we have, things like the exclusive mounts in the Orenthal box and stuff like that. If it's not in for launch, what's the plan with that? Is that going to be removed from the box, or what are we going to be doing?
Actually, all of the mount references when we moved to the site should have been removed in general.
Oh, really? Okay.
Is it still in the Orenthal box? If we've made a promise to the mount, then you would get the mount when we release it. But in general, when we moved over here, we made the decision to not promise mounts because they weren't supposed to be promised on Kickstarter in the first place. So yeah, if the promise is out there, then we'll fulfill it once mounts actually exist in the game.
Okay. So you guys aren't planning to have a massive zoo full of different mounts of, okay, this one's a dragon, this one's an undead horse, this one's a snake that you can ride. Mounts are going to be few and far between, as well as nowhere near as useful as like in World of Warcraft, where you could just hop on your dragon, point yourself in the general direction, and fly across a continent in a few minutes.
Yeah, flying mounts is a whole different thing, right? I'm not the hugest fan of flying mounts in general, but it also depends on the game. I mean, if flying from A to B involves some sort of combat or something like that, then sure, I can. If I fly my dragon and then I'm playing Panzer Dragoon while I'm flying on the way to somewhere else, then sign me up for that. I'm down for that. That's fun. But if it's just to go from point A to point B, once again, it's shrinking the world, and it's just another mountain in the stable, right? Now, if we had a system where that dragon has some sort of function versus the behemoth or whatever, whether it be on ground or air or whatever, going back to the combat example, then yeah, we would have a decent sized stable available to people so that they can make those choices. But outside, I don't want it to just be a cosmetic thing. If people desire that, it doesn't break the tenets of our game, then we can put it in. But I think that before we go down that path and just say we're going to do it, I think we should stop and think and try to come up with something a little more deep.
Yeah, there's very little risk in most games that have flying, or back to the Vanguard example with the ships. There's it just gets you from point A to point B faster, and it shrinks the world. So what meaning does it really have beyond like prestige and status? And that's so, yeah. And so we can really add, I think, something that, additional besides just having that status. Probably not going to be the highest priority.
One thing that I, especially having experienced World of Warcraft as my big kind of flying mount example, it changes how the world is made on a drastic scale. All of a sudden, instead of just having to consider a flat plane, you have to consider the entire three-dimensional space from top to bottom.
Yeah, Montessori was saying that in chat too. It's a good point. If you're gonna have flying mounts, it's important to decide that early so that the game is designed appropriately.
Yeah, EQ2, when EQ2 put flying mounts in, they had to get rid of all these invisible walls and raise the ceilings in all the zones because the older zones were made without that in mind, because EQ2, was that we'll never have flying mounts. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. So zones were designed and implemented, with that, not even considering that. But it was a pain for ART to make the changes they made in order to put flying mounts in EQ2. So yeah, definitely, point is valid. We have to consider that. But just saying that we'll put in zones and not have invisible walls or super low ceilings just in case we do flying mounts, that's an easier decision to make now than saying we'll definitely have flying mounts. Right? We may never have flying mounts, but putting our zones in that way, don't want to speak for the artist necessarily, but I can't see it hurting us to just put in our zones with that consideration already.
You're not losing anything by just putting a little extra effort into making the zones.
No, not at all. Not at all. And if we need an invisible wall, then that would be a designer being able to put that in the game himself if he needs to block or stop something.
See, that's overall, that's one of the challenges in making an MMO that isn't necessarily present in other genres, is that sort of thing has to be considered all the time, because you have to consider when you're developing an MMO that it's going to have some sort of longevity. So you have to think about, where will this game be in 5 years, so you have to make all of these, pre-planning for things that may not even happen, so it's just another example of how intricate a design of an MMO can be.
Yeah, and people are pointing out in the chat things like rentable mounts, things like that. We had that notion in Vanguard, and plenty of other games have done it. Go talk to a dude. Maybe it's automatic or not. Hop on. I think DAOC was the first game I played that had that. Hop on it. It'll automatically take you there. Griffins from WoW, another good example. Those things we may have. I don't have an issue with that. Whether the mount is controlled or not, Vanguard, we had controllable flyers that you could rent for a certain amount of time. That's stuff we might do. And the nice thing about putting the rentable flyers in, when I put those in, was that at a low level, letting someone actually experience that, because at the time, flying mount was the thing to get, right? It's kind of a cool preview into what you can get to. It doesn't break the game. It lets you fly for a little bit of time, but it gets you really excited and kind of fuels that engine to keep going and going and going till you get to max level or wherever flying mounts may exist in the game. So I kind of like stuff like that. If we don't launch with mounts, but we have rentable mounts, people are gonna be like, man, I really wish I could, take this guy off the rails and explore him out here, or I've experienced mountains to some degree. So then when mounts come out or when we announce them, people have kind of this idea of what they might feel like, and it just gets them more excited. So, there is probably a good chance that we'll have rentable mounts depending on how our world's laid out.
Mm-hmm. Max63 again is asking about. So what is going to be available that you guys are sure of at release then? Is it just going to be ports? Is it just going to be foot travel? What are you confident that release will have for mounts and for traveling?
Right now, it's definitely player ports, and obviously you're going to be able to walk and run, and speed buffs. That right now I can say we'll definitely have. I can also say that we'll probably have things like NPC boats and stuff like that. or unmanned boats to take you to different zones. That stuff, we know about. It's really straightforward to put in. Sometimes boats can be a headache, but it's really straightforward to put in, and it's easier for us to build our world knowing that. One thing that we do have to consider with our game is, of course, climatization stuff and climates, and how that might interact with mounts or whatever, or just travel in general. So once we get down to that point, which hopefully in the next 3-4 months, we'll hopefully have more to say on details of that. But acclimatization is, of course, a whole other beast that we have to tackle.
Well, Ben, do you see any questions that came through that should be answered on this subject?
No, I think there's some confusion as to Oberon is asking, do we have boats or not? Now we have boats. Which is it? NPC boats. Yeah, anyway, that was cleared up. Okay. Yeah, that's the only one that's up.
Okay. Really quick, what is climatization? I don't mean to sidetrack, but I am devilishly curious. Like, just for a moment, what is it?
Well, thinking kind of just in loose terms, it's kind of putting the environment back in player versus environment. It's trying to survive in potentially harsh climates of varying degrees and different types. Probably leave it at that for now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's having to be prepared for the elements, basically. You're not only fighting the orc, you're fighting the gusts of wind or the snowstorm or the lava striations in the ground. You have to pay attention to those things.
Basically making it a living, breathing world.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, if a storm blows through, then lightning could hit the ground. It could do whatever. It could affect your magic spells, whichever possibilities in there.
If you're a knight in heavy armor out in the middle of a field and a thunderstorm kicks in, you probably don't want to be there.
Maybe, definitely, I definitely want to explore stuff like that. Not just climatization, but swimming with full armor on and stuff like that and wade. Excuse me.
Oh,
sorry.
You were sorry. I thought you were still.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Going back to the questions here, K-Tam was asking, will mounts have abilities related to their type? Actually, this is something I'm also very curious about. What kind of abilities, if any, will mounts have? Are they going to have combat abilities? Are they going to be able to be used in combat? What kind of abilities will they have, if any?
This would be, this is going beyond travel, right? This goes back to what Corey was saying initially about having some sort of mount system, and what I was saying about them having a purpose. If we had a mounted combat system, then yes, mounts would have something. That's what I was saying earlier about the dragon versus the behemoth, right?
Sure. Yeah.
The dragon might have, a fire ability and things like that, and tail rake, and the behemoth just has chomp or whatever. One is more physical based, one's more magic based. So when you're going out traveling, you have to take that into account. Then, of course, you can throw acclimatization into that. And, if an area is very lightning prone, then maybe you have a lightning-based mount that gets some more energy from that. Maybe it moves faster. Maybe its abilities are more powerful. So if we had a combat system, or if we were planning one out now, which we currently are not, then, yeah, they would have I couldn't see a system where you wouldn't do that. Right. But I could certainly see if we put mounts in and we didn't have a combat system like that, you being able to get off of your mount and it fighting next to you, even if it's just a kind of a mindless pet. I could see that happening. Of course, with some of our other classes, some of the summer classes or one of the summer classes, I forget. I always get them confused. I could totally see them maybe taming a pet and that pet being mountable by them. I could also see, a paladins being able to get holy steeds. It's a thing that paladins can do. It makes sense. They are knights. And, fantasy wise, it's kind of always been a stereotype, right? So as a general thing, I would say, no, we're not going to have mounts at launch, but there shouldn't be any surprise if we make some exceptions for some people. if a shaman can have Spirit of the Wolf, then maybe a paladin can get his Holy Steed. It's not hurting much. It's just a thing that goes to that class.
Flash boots.
Going back to the topic of porting, of using portals and teleporting players, Awe is asking a lot of different questions on how the restrictions on that are going to be enacted. Is it going to be by zone? Is it going to be by group? Is it going to be by individual? How exactly are the mechanics of teleporting and porting players based on single or groups going to work?
Hang on. I'm trying to find the question to see if I
can read them off here.
Who is it? Awi?
Awe, yeah. The first one was, for group porting capabilities, are you thinking of having any kind of recast timer on porting spells, or would the caster be... chat keeps scrolling. No, I'm sorry. Recast porting spells, or would the caster be able to hop around in the old EQ fashion from zone to zone?
Every ability will probably have a recast timer, but I don't see why these would have a recast timer of any significance. They'll probably have a long cast time. Then you have the zone, of course. So them having some long recast time doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's a convenient spell. So if you port your group here and you want to pop back out, then pop back out and port again. You're dealing with time regardless, because you're still going to have some zone time and stuff like that. I don't see any reason that it would have a long recast time.
He also asks, for groups, what kind of in-zone or worldwide capabilities are envisioned for gathering the group together if they're spread apart? Example, will you be able to use a call of the hero type ability? If yes, will it be zone restricted?
If we put call the hero in, then yeah, it'd be zone restricted. We're not going to let you call a hero from across the world. It just seems like you could kind of exploit that in ways, well, not necessarily exploit, but use it in ways that kind of go against the notion of us wanting to explore and travel the world. So if you're grouping with people, if you're in an area XPing, then you're probably close to that area anyway. So someone maybe will teleport you close and you run. It kind of goes with the territory. But getting Koth down to the bottom of the dungeon, if you can get to the zone, they can Koth you down there, then we're totally fine with that.
One of the controversial topics that we've been seeing a lot of too, ever since we announced the game, was the idea of group finders type things, where you automatically get ported to your character or to your group at whatever dungeon they're in. Have we landed on what we're going to be doing with that?
We discussed the notion of group finder in general is not something that we would take off the table. But if we do decide to go with it, the design of it obviously is take into account what we're trying to do with the game. People's biggest issue with Group Finder, when we talked about it at Kickstarter, was the anonymity of it, right? Because Group Finder involves multi-servers and things like that. So I may group with someone, 10 minutes later, we're out of the group, and I don't see that guy again. That means the guy could do whatever he wants. He could be a total a-hole and screw us over, and then he doesn't care, right? Hence the anonymity of the internet. My counter to that was, if we had a system where, obviously we'd have cross server chat, things like that, and I could somehow say, hey, when I do a group finder group or whatever, it's only with these select people that I actually know from other servers, so that the pool of people that you could make friends with and interact with, and if it's late at night and your guildies aren't on or whatever, but some of your friends on their servers are on, they want to do something, we could allow you to do that and kind of get rid of that whole faceless person helping you, because you actually know them, you interact with them, you talk to them, whether it be online or offline. But as far as getting people together using Group Finder, it's one of those things where, once again, we have to be careful, slippery slope, people teleporting all over the place, not having to go from point A to point B. If you haven't been there already, are we going to let you just teleport there instantly? We have to be careful with those types of things. Even if you can get a wizard to teleport you, are we going to make you go to a place first and click on something to say that you've been there and now you can actually be teleported there? That'll probably be the route we go with when it comes to that specific thing. We want people to explore. But as far as Group Finder goes, it's something that needs to be designed still. Also with the group leveling, we've talked about doing things like letting if your group's been together long enough, they've leveled up enough, then they could potentially teleport you back to them. But that means that you've been in the group that long, and of course, when the group disbands, your level resets. So, just some things.
Kabarak had a very good question. Apparently, I forgot how to describe words at that point in time, though. Wow, brain. He's asking about, is there going to be an evac button? Is there going to be a button you can hit to just get out of a situation and teleport out? Let me find his exact question.
Yeah, there will be. I know what he's talking about. Yeah, okay. But, that'll be also a kind of class restriction thing. What classes have it? Not sure. The default, it seems to be the porting classes. I know EQ2 kind of blurred the lines with that, and they let their thieves and stuff, with the notion of them finding like a secret place to, get their party out. We just have to decide where that fits best. Sure.
And we want to thank everyone for joining us here on twitch.tv/The Rob and Dan Show. Thank you so much for being here. Also, there is a rebroadcast. I don't know if it's available right now, but next week it will be available through KTAM. For those that cannot connect, sadly, to the Twitch page, we know we do stream at just over 2 Mbps. Can be trouble sometimes. So we're going to start up a rebroadcast through KTAM for those that need a much less system-intensive rebroadcast. So that is coming up in the near future. Back to chat. Is there another question that is next in the pipe, Ben, that you saw?
No.
No,
we've caught up in questions. How is that impossible?
I have no idea. So got up. Suspect the Pantheon community oriented first 4 years. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's one. Where is it?
So one of the things that Salim, you and I had talked about very briefly earlier on when we were still doing the Kickstarter, for that matter, is making sure that travel is meaningful. So. Yes. Corey, since you've been working on the design, what kind of things would you be implementing that makes sure that travel is meaningful, that has purpose?
Okay. Maybe it has incentives like achievements for exploring different regions or different areas. There might be localized like itemization, be it like merchants that maybe spawn in rare and or rarely spawn like in far off places that you might have to hunt down if you wanted to kind of play more of an economical point of view. This is all still high level stuff, so don't take any of this as gospel, but just some ideas being thrown around. Possibly like some travel based content, like whether it's like NPC faction that kind of points you to give you some clues to go places. Let's see, and possibly, depending on what sort of systems we can get in for like NPC spawning mechanics and stuff, having perhaps like randomly spawning merchants along the roads or highwaymen, that sort of stuff. So there's still some element of surprise as you're running over the roads that you've visited countless times in your journeys. Having that little flash of kind of unexpectedness, I think, makes things more meaningful, kind of stand out. And then possibly having like randomized teleports. So given the like chaotic nature of Terminus in the world that the characters and everybody inhabits, things are kind of constantly shifting around. So the notion of being able to teleport to the same place every time, may or may not exist. I think having you're going for this spot of like arcane energy. Let's take like a wizard as an example, and you're trying to teleport to put it like in EQ1 terms, like the Combine Spires. There's great arcane energies there, and different things are drawn to that. Maybe there's denizens that spawn there that are kind of difficult. You might spawn into hostile territory because your wizard tried to teleport your group and he was like 10 meters off and it shot you over, too close to a camp. So you might have a little bit of like an element of unexpectedness. We'll have to kind of play with that, obviously. We don't want to completely, kick everyone when they are trying to get around the world, but I think having a little bit of that might kind of help things stand out and reinforce a lot of what Pantheon's about, like being prepared and kind of going off and exploring potentially unknown possibilities.
That's kind of sorry, go ahead, Sully.
Well, just to speak to what Corey's saying, the notion of the wild magic teleport is something we brought up during the Kickstarter, and I totally love it. When Tony and I talked about it, he was going crazy over it. Because the Combine Spires, that's an example of something that could exist in our game as something that has been controlled or has been somehow tamed by whatever faction of arcane scientists we may have. But like you said, the world's shifting. These planes are constantly colliding. These magics are just super wild. Which is kind of where what the Fury is based off of. So letting our teleporters tap into that, there's going to be some sort of side effect. So I want to see a network that is stable, a network that has been controlled, a network that people can, hey, I want to go here, A, B, C, D. But there's also this other network that you never know. I mean, maybe you do a jump on a chaos teleport and it teleports you to a part of the world you can only get to by doing that. And when you pop down, your life force is drained or your mana is drained because you are literally traveling on wild magic. And there's a gigantic giant standing in front of you. Those types of things, I think, are paths that we can jump down relatively safely because it's optional. It's it can be 2 lines of casting spells. It could be literally just be kind of a random event. Hey, I'm traveling on the safe network. Oh wow, wait a minute. How do we get on this chaos network? And what the hell's going on here? I'm excited about travel as it relates to that for sure. Like I said, we have kind of the mundane, kind of static, standard stuff. But because of our lore, we can do these kind of kooky things. And I think, some stuff that Corey's come up with in this regard is going to be super awesome to toy around with.
There was a question in response to what Corey was talking about from Kabarek. There it is. Meaningful travel is great, he says, but how do you also plan to make it non-tedious, especially when retraveling through content that is trivial to your character?
Well, I mean, as it goes on, as characters grow in power, they will have the ability to teleport each other around to an extent. There will be ways to sort of bypass some of the, I would say, I guess, earlier or tedious content to some folks, but I guess it's all a matter of perspective, right? Like if we can do some element of like the randomization where you strike off and maybe you just happen across something new on the same road that you've traveled before. I mean, is that really, I don't know, maybe again, all perspective. I would probably find that pretty exciting, like the prospect of going down the same roads I had before, because you just never know what you're gonna entirely run into. It's there should be options to get around the world beyond just I have to start like at my capital city and I have to run through these 3 zones to get to my final destination in the long term. But you probably will have to travel like retread some stuff, or especially like earlier on. I guess.
I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
I mean, it's so if you're at a certain level of the game, higher level, hopefully you got more friends. You've probably got access to teleporters, whether they be friends or not, or you can just say, hey, looking for a teleport, here to here, anyone close by, offering to pay money. Traveling, if you decide to just walk from here to here without even trying to find someone to help, then it might be tedious. But if there's random events going on, I know Ben and I When we talk about travel during a Kickstarter, I brought up the fact that, you never know what could happen between points A and B. You might want to walk there because, oh, crap, there's a lightning storm here. When lightning storms are around, these crazy lightning dervishes spawn. Holy crap, these guys drop a super awesome weapon, rarely. Maybe I do want to travel from here to there. It's not necessarily tedious at that point because you are being engaged by the environment itself. Are you prepared to fight these guys? A guy may spawn who's, super easy. You just have to have a lightning sword to hit him, and he drops this thing 100% of the time. Oh, crap, I have my lightning sword. Oh, man. We want to look at that type of stuff. Corey already mentioned. I mean, even if it's just a traveling merchant that spawns, and now he has some sort of escort mission. Hey, you found me. I need help getting, to the closest city. Okay, well, I'm going to take you there. And then a bunch of crazy stuff happens out of that. So I think that we'll be fine in that regard because you do have options. You do talk to someone. I mean, it's probably the best answer to that is send someone a tell. Hey, any teleporters around? Do a who all in the zone. Do a who all in the zone next to it. Find out if there's any teleporters around who are willing to teleport for money. I haven't met very many teleporters who are not willing to take plat to click a button and wait 10 seconds to teleport you somewhere.
Robert Morrison's pretty good for that. let me just take a moment to say, go traveling merchants, as one might say. There was, sorry, I have to promote myself. Awe and Killian are both asking about something very similar, which is buffs to just generally walking somewhere. Will there be buffs from different items such as roads or traveling kits or, for example, rock climbing kits? Are you going to have special paths or methods of travel that are only accessible if you have like a rock climbing kit or something? Is that in the books, or is that just a little too intricate for what you're looking at?
I don't see why not. I mean, if they're talking about literally climbing, I'm not sure if we'll have that or not. Once again, that's one of those things that has to be decided early because you have to make the world around that. But the notion of items enhancing your travel, whether it be expendables or not, sure, we'll have that type of stuff. I mean, shamans and EQ made alchemy potions that cast Spirit of the Wolf. Of course, difference there is that they were the only ones that could make them, and they also cast one of the classes that cast Spirit of the Wolf. But yeah, we'll have items that expended items that will enhance your speed. We'll probably have a notion of things like J boots and stuff like that as well that you have to do whatever extreme tasks to get. Modifying your personal run speed, you'll be able to do that. Probably if you're not a class that can do it on its own, probably through some sort of epic or a long and involved adventure.
And the notion of roads, I mean, that's something that I touched on briefly, and what we had discussed in travel too is maybe with higher quality roads you have a slightly increased run speed movement while you're on them, but we have to find a way to do it and have it make sense. Explore that a little bit, but it's definitely something we're discussing.
Which one would argue that it's almost inherent. If there's no NPCs on the road to attack you, then you're probably going to be running faster inherently because nothing is actually aggroing at you and killing you. But yeah, if there's some sort of swift travel buff or something on a road, then yeah, I don't see a problem with that. It makes sense, right?
Sure,
it's something that's easily tangible in the brain.
Sure.
One of the charms in learning a zone is just that it's in learning the zone, and the only way that you do that is if you spend a lot of time in the zone. I can tell you with games that I've played in the past, the games that had meaningful travel like that, I remember those zones very, very well. I remember all of the nooks and crannies, and then I sort of take pride on knowing where I was going and all of the secret spots on where to go. Whereas some other games, you just run through the zone, you go from quest hub to quest hub, and you never really learn the zone. So when you go explore it later, it's like, I don't recognize any of this, So there's something to be said about repetition. In an everyday world, when you walk to the store, it might be tedious. You might consider it tedious, but still, it feels like home. It's something familiar. That's sort of the way that I see it, anyway. But
and something different could happen to you every time you walk to the store.
Yeah.
You never know. It's never going to be the same walk each time. Or a car full of really good-looking women could be like, "Hey, we got room for one more."
That never happens.
Or we're happen to go to the store.
Not to me, anyway.
You should live in California. It happens all the time.
There you go.
No comment. I live in Iowa. We have pigs in carts. K-Tam.
It's a different one, right?
I live in Michigan. We have sleds.
K-Tam, I assume that's Beckhalter operating the K-Tam account, asked about teleport hubs. Like in World of Warcraft, we have Dalaran, we have Shatrath. We have all these teleport hubs that we can use that have teleporters to every major city on the continent, wherever you'd like to go. And people, when they didn't exist, clamored for them. But I think that they make them world incredibly boring because it just makes it even faster to get around. Would you guys even consider putting those in? So
the thing I talked about earlier with the Chaos Network, originally I had spec'd that out as being our notion of fast travel, but A, it was difficult to find a spot to travel from, and B, you didn't know where it would put you. I've since kind of backed off from that because the reason you put in a fast travel system is for that, right? Convenience, that anyone can get from point A to point B, and just go. And I think for us, with the type of game we're making, we're just not going to have that. I think the hub that will be defined by where players congregate, and thus that's where teleporters are. People are all selling, in this one city, then go to that city or bind yourself in that city. And when you teleport, there's a bunch of players around, so ask someone for a teleport, and they will probably do it.
And how is binding going to work? You just used the term. How is the binding or teleport to your bind point? How is that going to function?
Right now we're talking about probably sticking with the notion of a bind soul spell. If we put bind crystals in, they'd probably be few and far between. They'd be at places we consider the major hub for an area. But we have to sit and discuss things like play session time, things like that, and how long it would take someone to get from here to there. Any meaningful dungeon or whatever, on average, to see how that works for us. Something that we're happy with. But that's definitely up in the air. It'd certainly be a notion of a bind soul spell. But whether we give you the ability to bind yourself, the individual that's not a caster, something that we have to work out.
Yeah. Another really important point to bring up. K-Tam just brought it up. I saw one or two other folks bring it up as well in chat. Apologies, I don't remember who exactly it was. It was much earlier. Is weight, whether it be armor or weapons or bag size or how full your bags are, is that going to affect your speed?
If we put a weight system in, I don't see how it couldn't. Yeah, weight system's a whole other discussion. I am not sure where I land on that. The weight system in EverQuest to me just ended up being something that just made backpack 10% weight reduction backpacks and 100% weight reduction backpacks have some meaning. It was almost as if the system ended up seeming like it was put in just to make those bags valuable and not because it actually added any gameplay, unless you were a monk, of course, and then you were just kind of irritated that you had all this strength, but you couldn't carry a bunch of stuff. So, once again, if it's meaningful, I mean, not saying that the weight system in EQ didn't add to the experience overall, but playing games that were of this nature that didn't have weight systems, I didn't notice that the weight system wasn't there. Games like FF11, Vanguard, it really didn't. Weight was certainly not a factor at all. I'm trying to remember when we removed weight. But yeah, it just right now I couldn't say that we're going to have one or not. It certainly hasn't come up in discussion, but we haven't really gone deep into itemization details either.
Even games that had weight restriction tended to only be fairly limited on it, in the fact that after a few levels, it didn't mean much of anything anyway. One thing that did bug me, though, was I needed a super high amount of strength to be able to wear full bronze. And full bronze was only available at, only good for you at low levels, and you had no strength to wear it at the time. It was,
so it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah.
A recent example of a game that I played where weight was somewhat meaningful was State of Decay. I don't know if anyone's played that. I do recommend it if you're looking for a diversion. But it doesn't really affect necessarily how fast you move, but it deteriorates your stamina and your max stamina really fast if you're like encumbered.
That's a good info.
Oh yeah. Actually, I remember playing State of Decay, and for all of what I didn't like about the game, the weight system was actually like, well, this is something I really got to think. I got to manage exactly what I'm carrying.
Yeah. The question is that actually fun, right? The inventory mini games to me are not overly fun. The Diablo volume style inventories, I hate those things because, oh man, is the sword this shape or is it this shape? Oh god, I gotta drop this for that. I'm not really engaging in the game. I'm engaging in this weird meta game that just doesn't add a whole lot to me. I get the whole notion of I have to give up potentially selling this thing for this, which is generally what it comes down to, at least in that example. But if you're sitting there looking at your inventory for 10, 20 minutes during a gameplay session because you're trying to sort this, that, and the other, I think we've done poorly because you're not playing a game. You're playing a UI game. We could release the inventory game on a phone app and probably make more money, right? It drives me nuts.
Maybe that's what we should do, Pantheon inventory on iPad.
Rob, you have your iPad next to you. Let's do it.
That we could launch within, a couple of weeks, I'm sure. Maybe we should do that.
Well, watch out, because look what happened with Spore. The creature creator was a separate product, and that was more fun.
We do not talk about Spore. You know the rules.
I break the rules.
Spore is awesome.
But I will say that I will say that the equip load management in Dark Souls and the Souls series I really like because of how that affected gameplay overall.
Yeah. I mean that's affecting that's affecting your ability to dodge and all, and obviously Dark Souls is a more twitch game, so it is way appropriate there. Trust me, I've looked and considered, all three games, that system working in an MMO some way. But yeah, if it's directly affecting gameplay and what you can wear and things like that, which is effectively what it is, raise your vitality to get that up. But that depends on your gameplay style, right? In Dark Souls, you make a character, and even though you choose a class at the beginning if you want to, you still can go down any path you want. Thus, the importance of vitality is based on your gameplay. In this sense, everyone is going to want to get items and put them in their bag, in their inventory. Yeah. So, if you go down the route of strength being the thing that determines max weight load, people get screwed. But then if you make up this new stat, then how they progress it it's kind of apples and oranges. To some extent, because the games are kind of different, but yeah, trust me, I want to play Dark Souls 2 right now too.
I want to get off the show and play Dark Souls.
Why did you have to bring that up, Rob?
I haven't played it in like a day. Stop it.
A whole day.
That's a millennium in gamer terms.
I'm splitting my time between Final Fantasy X Remake, Dark Souls 2, Tales of Symphonia remake, and I've been playing a lot of Path of Exile. So stop.
Away has one more contribution. He says that mounts won't likely be in at release, but he still wants it so that gnomes can ride ogres.
Only if the ogres can throw them.
We were actually talking about this the other night when I was critiquing the ogre concept. I would totally love if you basically an ogre could give a gnome an assist and let them sit on their shoulder while they're walking around. It doesn't change your run speed, right? It's just cool. But that means that the ogre at any time can take him and throw him at a target as just an attack. It's kind of a team-based attack. It's basically fastball special. I'm totally for that. It's kind of a cool thing for the game, and it makes sense, right? This guy's gigantic. Why do I got to walk around? I can cast spells from his shoulder. But any moment he could throw me. So cool. He could just throw me into the fray. I'm not a boomerang. I'm just a gnome, so I'm not coming back. I'm just in the middle of all these mobs. So we might explore some stuff like that because it'd be actually pretty awesome.
That'd be awesome.
He came out of nowhere.
Gnome tossing, the newest and only form of air travel.
That could be a racial ability for ogres, right?
Well, here's what I'm thinking about. So obviously, I go to World of Warcraft a lot. That's what I have in my head. So a gnome from World of Warcraft, let's say a mage, an ice spec mage, a frost mage, if you will. Yep. An ogre carrying around his shoulder. Grabs the gnome, tosses it midway in the air. Gnome ice blocks, turns into a massive ice missile. Yeah,
I'd love it. That would be super awesome.
I would subscribe for a year if they put that ability in. I would never play it, but I'd give them a year's worth of money for that.
Well, a gnome-sized ice missile. A gnome-sized ice missile would be a snowball.
Oh.
Oh man, what kind of gnome? What are you talking about? Like
Rob, that joke was not very big of you.
Oh no!
Oh, stop! Are gnomes the size of the brownies from Willow? What's going on?
Smurfs.
I feel like a bad person now. Speaking of being a bad person, we are nearly out of time. So before we get out of here and we move on for our evenings, wrap this present up and post it to the YouTube page. Gentlemen, is there anything coming out in the next few weeks that you want to kind of give us an insight on? Just quick preview, a snapshot, if you will.
Ben, you got anything?
I'm sorry, I got some IMs popping up here, so I totally missed the question.
That's fine. Is there anything coming out in the next few weeks you want to give us a tiny little preview window of? To bump.
You're going to see some art this week. Salim and I still have to touch base on that, but I just got a cool little thing in my inbox, so I want to share that. I just have to, make sure that we're good to go on it. But
he is doing his best not to share any details, but it seemed like he is.
Well, that's because I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. I did need to make sure that you're cool with it before.
Tiptoeing on glass.
Yeah, but no, there will definitely be something art related this week. I literally it just came in, so I gotta.
There we go. Are we looking forward to any lore releases in the next few weeks too? I know Tony works very hard on those.
Tony has sent over an entire language chart, and it was really awesome. I do want to publish that soon. I'm just having some technical difficulties with the way that the site's working. So I just got to figure out the best way to do it because it's got all sorts of tables and pronunciation guides and stuff. And it's really in depth. It's really great. And so when we do put it up, I want it to be done proper, not just plastered in there. So hopefully we can get that up soon. He's been going crazy with stuff like that. Vu finished his dragon. Almost finished it anyway.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get a screenshot from him for that.
Matter of fact, I'm looking at it right now. It looks so good. It looks so
Vu good.
Man, if only you guys could see it.
Yeah, we don't mean to tease like this. Honestly, it's just
Salim means to tease. What are you talking about?
Well, I don't. I certainly don't. So hopefully, I can get a good quality screenshot of that so that I can show you guys that too.
Fantastic. I'm sure Rob is extremely eager for that, especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
What I really like about it is that when we were doing the VU show or the developer series on the Rob and Dan show before we started the roundtables, we saw some of the early work on the Dragon. So what I really want to do is just do the contrast for people that didn't see it back then, so they could see what it looked like back then compared to what it looks like now. Just that sort of thing. It's that awesome. It looks really good.
We could do that, Rob. We can take a frame from one of the first second video, right?
Yep, we can easily do that.
That's easy enough. Alrighty, we're coming to the last minute or so, guys. Here, any closing thoughts from any of you that you might have?
No, just keep checking the site. I mean, the site's getting upgraded with stuff. We got this new chat thing coming out where we'll be able to basically any one of us can hop on camera and voice and ping talk to someone in chat and have them hop on, which is a big thing for me because I really want to be able to do that. Like talking to people, on a one-on-one basis. But yeah, just keep checking the site and things are going up. The next month should be, it's going to be a little more internal stuff, but now that we've got our art pipeline, defined a little better. I'm hoping to get our races, a couple more races concepted out, things like that. We got, creature lists. So, hopefully that can, stimulate getting more of those particular concepts out as well. So yeah, just, keep checking back, keep coming back here every Monday. We'll all be here, except for Ben. I'm going to kill him silently, but, yeah, thanks for the support, everyone, and it's awesome to see people get so excited about the game.
And don't forget, for a limited time only, you can pick up your official Pantheon Rise of the Fallen t-shirt in our store.
Thank you, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us here at twitch.tv/RobandDan Show for the weekly Pantheon Roundtable. Remember, you can go and support the broadcast in any way, shape, or form by going to PantheonROTF.com. In addition, if you're curious about the Rob and Dan Show or want to look us up, all the information is down below the Twitch video. There is tons of stuff down there, including our Cafe Press page. We have shirts available in any shape or size that you would like, as well as mugs, flasks, and beer glasses. That's how you do it, Ben.
We just have t-shirts. We don't have mug flasks. Eyeglass.
We have a viewer who has sent us multiple pictures of different beers in his R&D beer glass. It just, oh my god, it's funny as hell. Oh my god. Thank you so much, guys. KTAM is going to have the post-game show, the post-event over at ktamradio.com in just about 15 minutes from now. I won't be joining them. I have Heroes of the Storm that I have to do right here on stream. We're going to go to a 5-minute break here in just a few moments. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Ben, Salim, and Corey. Corey, good to have you on here again.
Thanks for having us, as always.
Hopefully we'll have you a few more times as well. Sounds here good. In the next month.
Look forward to it.
For Rob, I have been Dan.
For Dan, I have been Rob.
That's the Pantheon Weekly Roundtable for March 31st, 2014. Good night now.
Bye.
Bye.
And don't forget, for a limited time only, you can pick up your official Pantheon Rise of the Fallen t-shirt in our store.